Gdański Catholic Video Magazine, the 1st of August 1988.
Sprawdziło się chińskie porzekadło. Żyjemy w ciekawych czasach.
The Chinese proverb has been confirmed.
Świadomości i strukturach
These
naszego
are
społeczeństwa.
the times of real changes in the mentality of Polish society.
Aby nie zakończyły się klęską,
For the Catholics, so that these changes are not an illusion, they have to be based on the values contained in the Gospel. Does our experience of faith change?
Nad współczesnym przeżywaniem i doświadczeniem wiary pomyślony został nasz miesięcznik, Gdański
Our
Magazyn
monthly
Katolicki,
news magazine has been
dekretem biskupa
based
Gdańskiego Tadeusza
on the issue of decree of Gdańsk Bishop on the 11th of June 1988. Inviting you to look at our first issue of this magazine is going to be our common mutual experience. Between August and hope.
Mija 8. rocznica podpisania porozumień społecznych w Gdańsku, Szczecinie
Now
i Jastrzębiu.
we
Ten sposób
celebrate the 8th anniversary
obu negocjujących stron
of
i
the
nadzieją
strikes
dla
of
Polski.
August 1980.
Po 8 latach wracają te same pytania,
After
te
8
same problemy.
years, the same questions, the same problems return.
Myśląc o dniu dzisiejszym i
Thinking
o
about
przyszłości
today
Polski,
and about the
wróćmy
future of
pamięcią do
Poland,
tamtego czasu,
let's
sprzed
come back
8 lat.
to that time
Refleksja nad
before 8
teraźniejszością i
years.
nad przeszłością jest tematem 3 wypowiedzi, które Państwu
This is the
prezentuję.
subject of 3 interviews made with main persons of that drama.
To, co mnie uderzyło,
What I was particularly struck with upon entering the shipyard was the discipline,
wielka samoorganizacja. Innym takim
self-organization
momentem
of the people.
uderzającym
Another
podczas
striking element
całego tego pobytu
during the
dla
whole
mnie
stay there
było
was
to, że robotnicy
that the workers
w trakcie tych pertraktacji,
during those
które się
negotiations,
zaczęły,
which were
bardzo jasno i
started
bardzo wyraźnie
in a
mówili
very
nam,
clear way,
że te
started to
postulaty
say that
płacowe to są postulaty,
those
z których można
pay
ustąpić,
postulates
natomiast nie można
are
ustąpić
the
z
ones that we
postulatu
can give in,
zasadniczego.
but we cannot
To znaczy
yield
z postulatu
on the
utworzenia
most important
wolnych
postulate. It is the
związków
postulate
zawodowych.
about establishment of the free trade unions. This conscience about the need
Posiadania własnej
of having one's
organizacji była
own
wtedy ogromna.
trade union was
Ogromnym przeżyciem
immense.
tamtych dni
Another
wczesnaistych
immense
była
experience
dla mnie msza
from those
święta
days
w trakcie
was the
strajku.
mass celebrated during the
Msza
strike.
święta, o której bym powiedział, że
The mass
przeżywało się
about
ją
which I would say that
nie tyle jako
I
jakiś
experienced it not as a moment as of a seclusion,
taki moment
but it was a moment of confirmation of the right
prawa do tego, co się dzieje, o
and
co
the
w tych wszystkich
purpose
o co w tym całym
of the
wydarzeniu
whole event.
chodzi. Gdyby mówić o naszych działaniach,
If
naszej
one
roli,
wants to talk about our role there,
powiedziałbym, że współpraca nasza
I would say that
komisji
the
ekspertów
cooperation of us as the committee of experts with the Interfactory Strike Committee, in particular with its presidium, was very good and very intensive. Although the matters were extremely difficult, was based on great amount of mutual confidence, and this was very important. Our role was to prepare the general idea of negotiations and then to formulate the text of the agreement and to negotiate it. Now, after 8 years, after the 13th of December, what was left, what was preserved from that August? In concrete terms, it is the mass broadcast on the radio on Sundays.
Jak się otworzy pisma i
When you
patrzy
look into the
na
journals,
dekret, to
you can see the
opozycja
interference
katolicka
of the
została
censorship.
odznaczanie przez
It is marked
konieczność odznaczania
now.
ingerencji przez
The need
cenzurę,
to mark
ale to
those
są takie
interferences
rzeczy
was
konkretne.
introduced. These are the
Natomiast
concrete
jest to
things.
rzecz niewymierna,
But there is one intangible thing, but very basic, very important, a complete transformation of mentality of people of this country. The feeling that something has been achieved and that below this achievement no real agreement in this country that would contribute to some getting out of the crisis is not possible. That only on this plane, on this level, one can fairly and really achieve in mutual talks. And now I think that today, at present, in this situation that we have now, the perestroika, Gorbachev, changes in the Soviet Union, different outer situations are very important, contributing to the change of outer situation, but pushing forward the history of Poland, getting out of the crisis, and opening of a new chapter are only possible when, on one part, there will be a social pressure to that direction, and on the other hand, when there will be possibility to find of a higher plane, so that the Pole can talk like with a Pole, so that this higher plane is found, having in mind the good of Poland. When now the voivode has sent the matter to the public prosecutor, I come back, when we sign it, I come back to Warsaw and I present this to him. As the president of Gdańsk Voivodeship, I was in the very center of the events connected with the signing of the agreement. And after that, all the events which were connected with its realization. After 8 years, the details are gone. But in my memory, the most basic facts and basic conclusions remain. I was in a situation that I was supposed to be the first to get into the shipyard. I had to pass through the crowd of several thousand people. I had to pass through that crowd. I decided to do it with a car. On half my way to the shipyard, I had to walk to get out of the car through the tunnel of people chopped by the organizers. I met with different reactions, from the reactions hang him high to the reactions which were very friendly to me, concluded with applause. I will never forget my walk from the gate of the shipyard to the conference hall when I met Lech Wałęsa and other members of the strike committee.
Drogi, która wymagała wielkiego samokrytycyzmu z mojej strony.
This walk demanded a great amount of self-criticism on my part. Self-criticism. It demanded simply humbleness. It was a kanosa. In this difficult situation, one could get to some compromise formula, to some kind of consensus. I'll give the example that before August, there was the concept of free trade unions. This was the concept that was not accepted by the authorities. It was imprinted in the society, and because of political reasons, we did not want to make this formula be continued after August. A new concept was needed. And we got to that formula calling the new trade unions independent and self-governing. After 8 years of that signing that agreement, we are having a conflict situation. The May strikes and the present strikes, regardless of the concrete sources of them, they indicate that under the surface of these events there is a great amount of unresolved contradictions and accumulated material for a conflict situation. I cannot imagine the use of force as a way of resolving the conflict. So the agreement seems to be the only way out. So there will be an agreement. The later the agreement will be concluded, the greater will be the price, the economic price and the moral price as well. We think that the 21st century is the century of horrible, far-reaching pluralism. The wider it will be in horizontal sense, the more secure it will be in the vertical sense. This system, our presence here, is governed by privileges. Good Lord, good Secretary has given the privilege because it is his range. We say no, he did not give the privilege. We don't want anything. We resign in general. We want to have the right. We deserve to have the minimum, but not a caprice. The authorities used to govern with privileges. It is over now. During that meeting in April, this is true. There is no group, no solidarity or Lech Wałęsa that is prepared to get to the power and start governing. But this government has to come down here in a human way, simply down, and then slowly, economically, politically, practically. The solution has to be found, and it will be found. There's no chance when, with such great involvement of society in the 21st century, this method of governing is not compatible with the spirit of the era of computers. From this place I appeal public way. Mr. General, I feel that I was very often contempted, but it is not important for Poland. But it is important how to get out of this situation in a compromise, in agreement, how to make our lot easier, to finish the strikes and start working hard. I extend my hand and forget about anything. I remember that you don't have apartments, that we are the paupers of Europe, that we are shy of it, but the question is that we break the development of Europe and of the world, because we are ridiculed. It is embarrassing for the pride of the Pole. You generals, we are ready to finish all those strikes. We can start hard work, but on pluralistic terms. We were fighting together. We were fighting for you. We got the right to strike. We got the citizen guarantees. And what is most important, we got the right for independent trade unions. Let us take care that these trade unions are always self-governing and independent, working for us, for all of us, for the good of the country, for Poland. I declare this strike as being over. The Polish national anthem. Poland has not perished yet when we are still alive.
30 lipca na zaproszenie
On the
biskupa
30th
Gdańskiego
of
przybył do
July,
Gdańska
on the
kardynał
invitation
Jan
of
Sin, arcybiskup
Gdański bishop,
Manili, prymas
the
Filip.
primate of Philippines,
Kardynał Sin
Archbishop
odegrał olbrzymią rolę
James
w
Sin,
bezkrwawym przejęciu władzy na
came to
Filipinach za rąk
Gdańsk.
dyktatora
He played a
Marcosa.
great role in
Głównym celem wizyty kardynała w
changing
Gdańsku była
the
konsekracja
political
kościoła
situation
pod wezwaniem
in
świętego
the
Andrzeja
Philippines.
Boboli w
The
Sopocie,
main point
który
of
został
his visit
rozbudowany
was
wspólnym
the
wysiłkiem
consecration
sopockich
of
parafian i Filipińczyków
Andrew Bobola
pracujących od
Church
kilku
in
lat
Sopot,
w wybrzeżowych stoczniach.
which is very often used by the
W tej
Filipinos
świątyni
working in
filipińscy
our
goście
shipyards.
gromadzą się w każdą niedzielę na mszy
Every
świętej,
Sunday they assemble
sprawowanej dla
to
nich w
listen to
języku
the
angielskim.
Holy Mass,
31
which is
lipca
celebrated
kardynał
for them
Sin
in
w otoczeniu
English.
biskupa gdańskiego Tadeusza Gocłowskiego
Accompanied
oraz
by
biskupa
the Gdańsk
pomocniczego
bishop
Zygmunta
Tadeusz
Pawłowicza,
Gocłowski and Zygmunt
przy licznym
Pawłowicz,
udziale duchowieństwa, mieszkańców Sopotu i
with the
Gdańska,
participation
dokonał
of many
konsekracji nowo wybudowanej
inhabitants of
świątyni oraz
Gdańsk, he
wygłosił
consecrated the newly built church
Obok
and
przedstawicieli ambasady
preached a
filipińskiej
homily,
w uroczystości wzięło
together
udział
with the
liczna grupa
representatives
Filipińczyków.
of the Filipino
Wieczorem
embassy
kardynał
and
Sin
the
spotkał się
Filipinos
z wiernymi
themselves
w Bazylice Mariackiej w
were
Gdańsku,
present.
a w następnych dniach odwiedził Jasną Górę, Oświęcim, Wadowice,
Also
Kraków
visited
oraz
Wadowice,
Gniezno, gdzie
Częstochowa
spotkał się
and
z prymasem
Gniezno when he
Polskim.
met the primate of
Przed
Poland.
wyjazdem z Gdańska
Before his departure
ksiądz
from
kardynał
Poland,
udzielił magazynowi katolickiemu wywiadu.
the cardinal gave
Następnie
an interview
poprosiliśmy o
to the
informacje na temat
Gdańsk
życia religijnego
Catholic
na Filipinach.
magazine. First, we asked him about the religious life in the Philippines.
450 years ago, before the coming of the Spanish missionaries, the Philippines was a divided kingdom.
Przez 150 lat przed
For
przybyciem hiszpańskich
150
misjonarzy,
years before the
każda
Spanish
z
missionaries came,
7200 wysp wchodzących obecnie w skład
every
Filipin
island of the
stanowiła
Philippines
odrębne
was a
królestwo.
separate kingdom.
Dzięki chrześcijaństwu
Thanks to
owe
Christianity,
królestwa
all those
zjednoczone
kingdoms were
wieże stały
united.
się jednym krajem, który otrzymał nazwę od imienia
That
króla
was given the
hiszpańskiego
name
Filipa
after
II.
the king of
Misjonarze nie
Spain,
napotykali
Philip
większych
II.
trudności w nawracaniu
The
miejscowej
missionaries did not have too
która
much trouble
oddająca się
in
przedtem kultom
Christianing
animistycznym,
the local
chętnie
population
skłaniała się ku chrześcijaństwu.
that was very prone to Christianity.
Obecnie z 55 milionów ogółu
Now,
ludności
out of
Filipin,
55 million
87%
people living in the
stanowią
Philippines,
katolicy.
87%
Organizacja
are
kościelna
Catholics.
obejmuje 72 diecezje.
There
ze
are
115
72 dioceses with
Katolicyzm
115
jest religią
bishops.
większości.
It
Jeśli
is the
Kościół coś
religion of the
postanawia,
majority.
rząd
If
musi to
the
brać pod
church
uwagę, bo
decides
inaczej
something,
byłby
the
w
government
kłopocie.
has to take care of it,
Obserwowaliśmy
because
w Polsce
otherwise
z
it will
wielką
get into
sympatią
trouble.
i zainteresowaniem zmiany
We were
polityczne
monitoring
zachodzące
the
na Filipinach w
changes
ostatnich latach.
taking place in
Szczególne
the Philippines
zainteresowanie
with much
budziła rola,
interest.
jaką w tych
Particular
zmianach
interest
odgrywał Kościół katolicki i osobiście Wasza Eminencja.
was
8 września,
by the
święto
role
Narodzenia Najświętszej Marii Panny,
played by the church
kazanie
and your
pobożności w
eminence.
miejscowości Luneta
On the 8th of
powiedziałem,
September, during a
"Słuchajcie,
homily
wkrótce ten kraj
said
będzie
in
odbudowany,
the town
a
of
my
Luneta, I
uzyskamy
said,
wolność".
soon this country will be
2
rebuilt
tygodnie
and will
później Marcos
regain
ogłosił wybory
freedom.
prezydenckie.
2 weeks
Stwierdziłem, że to
later,
dobrze.
Marcos
W ten sposób
declared the
mogliśmy
presidential
go odsunąć
election.
od władzy
I said
bez
it is
przemocy.
good because in this
Marcos
way we
usiłował
could remove
sfałszować
him
wyniki
out of
wyborów.
his power
Przeszkodzili mu w tym młodzi ludzie pracujący
without
przy komputerach,
violence.
obliczających głosy.
The young people working at the
Przerwali oni pracę i
computers counting the
zorganizowali
votes
demonstracje.
stopped.
Ukryłem ich i obroniłem przed gniewem i represjami ze
He
strony
wanted to
Marcosa.
falsify the
Biskupi
elections,
wydali
but
oświadczenie w sprawie
I
wyborów.
hid the young
Było one
people
ostre,
and the
ale
bishops
był to czas, gdy
issued
Marcos
a
ogłosił, że
sharp
wygrał
declaration.
wybory. My
It
zaś
was the proper
stwierdziliśmy, że to
time.
nieprawda. On
We
jednak
state that
usiłował
it is not
pozostać
true
przy
that he
władzy.
won the elections.
Wtedy
He wanted to
250
remain at
żołnierzy
the
wraz
power.
z generałem Ramosa
250
odmówiło Marcosowi posłuszeństwa.
soldiers with General
Wojsko jest
Ramosa
traktowane jako zdrada i karane śmiercią.
refused
Mieli więc być
to obey
straceni.
his orders. They were
Tymczasem
supposed to be
ich żony
shot.
wołały do mnie: "Pomóż nam, kardynale. Nasi mężowie
Their
mają być
wives
zabici".
called to me, "Help
Nie
us,
myślałem
Cardinal.
wówczas o
Our
usunięciu
husbands
Marcosa, a tylko o
are going to be
uratowaniu
shot."
tych
I
żołnierzy.
was not thinking about
Udałem się do
ousting
kaplicy.
Marcus,
Modliłem
but
się
I
tam
wanted to
przez godzinę
save
z
those
uniesionymi w
people.
górę rękami.
I went to the
Czułem, że
chapel and
muszę coś zdziałać.
prayed
Zwróciłem się do
with my
sióstr
hands
z
raised.
zakonów
I addressed
kontemplacyjnych
the
z trzech
sisters from
klasztorów.
contemplating
Wołałem do nich przez
monasteries.
radio: "Wyjdźcie z waszych celów,
I called
biegnijcie
to
do
them
kaplicy i
by
śpiewajcie
the
litanie i
radio,
suplikacje Kyrie
get out of
eleison".
your cells and start to
Uznałem, że
pray
nadszedł
litanies
czas,
and
aby
sing
zwołać
Kyrie
ludzi.
eleison.
Przemówiłem
I
do nich przez
decided
radio i w ciągu 30
to
minut na
call the
placu zgromadziło
people,
się 3
and
miliony
within
ludzi.
30 minutes
obronie
after my
skazanych żołnierzy.
speech on the radio,
Przemawiałem
3
do
million
nich,
people
a
assembled
siostry
on the
były w tym
square.
czasie jak Mojżesz modlący się z uniesionymi w górę
The sisters
rękami.
were like
Przez
Moses
3 dni
praying
trwaliśmy na
with their
placu.
hands raised.
Ludzie
We were
dzielili się
on the
żywnością.
square for
Po
3
trzech
days
dniach
running.
Marcos opuścił
People were
kraj.
distributing food.
Wierzymy,
After
że
3
to Matka
days,
Boża
Marcos left
uratowała
the country.
Filipiny.
We believe
W
that
każdym zakątku
it was
placu
Holy
wisiały obrazy,
Mary
a
which
księża
saved the
odprawiali msze
Philippines.
święte. Mówiłem, to Bóg tu
The
działa.
priests were
Powiedziałbym, że
celebrating
Bóg był
messes.
autorem scenariusza, a
I
my
think that
byliśmy
God was
tymi,
the
którzy
author
grali
of the
wyznaczoną
scenario
przez
and
niego
we
rolę.
were playing
I dlatego
the
to zwycięstwo
roles
jest
which were
zwycięstwem
assigned
modlitwy.
to us. So it is
Będąc
the victory
uczestnikiem
of the
świadkiem tych
prayer.
wydarzeń na Filipinach, jak
Being
wasza eminencja widzi możliwość
The
mediacyjnej roli
participant
Kościoła
and
w czasie
the
wewnętrznych
witness of
zaburzeń
those
politycznych?
happenings,
Kościół ma do
how can
odegrania
you
w świecie
perceive
bardzo
the
ważną
role
rolę.
of the Church in
Zwłaszcza
those
biskupi.
inner political
Łacińskie słowo
disturbances?
pontifex,
The Latin
określające
word
biskupa,
pontifex,
składa się z dwóch członów: pons, most
meaning the bishop,
i facere, czynić.
is composed of
Oznacza
two
więc
parts,
budującego
pons
most.
the bridge
Biskup
and
jest
facere
więc
to
mostem,
build.
negocjatorem pokoju, jest jakby
The bishop
dyrygentem
is
orkiestry,
the
jaką stanowi wspólnota.
negotiator
I on
of peace.
sprawia,
He is
że
like a
zarówno
conductor
saksofon,
of
jak
the
kornet
orchestra,
grają
that
swoją
both
melodię,
the
tworząc
saxophone and the
zharmonizowaną
cornet
muzykę.
are playing a
To jest
harmonic
praca i
music. It is
odpowiedzialność biskupa.
the work
Musi on
and the
usuwać
responsibility
dysonanse, a
of the
popierać
bishop,
harmonię i
so that
zrozumienie w
he
społeczności.
removes the
Taka jest
dissonance
nasza rola.
and
Natomiast
promotes
zadaniem świeckim
harmony in the
mężczyzn i
community.
kobiet jest
And the
utrzymywanie
role of the
ładu
laity
doczesnego.
is to
Tak uczy
perform
Sobór
the
Watykański.
lay order.
Gdy idzie o sprawy polityczne,
As regards
należy
political
unikać
matters,
tego, co nazwałbym
one has to
polityką
avoid
partyzancką.
what I would call
Kościół
the
ma
partisan
prawo ingerować
policy.
we wszelką działalność człowieka,
The
także w
Church
polityce.
has the right to interfere
Jako
into any kinds of
działalność
human
ludzka ma ona
activity.
swój wymiar
It
wiary.
has its
Podczas wyborów powinienem pójść na
dimension
ambony i
of
powiedzieć
faith.
mojemu
During
ludowi,
elections, I have to
starajcie
go
się, aby te wybory były czyste,
to
uczciwe
the church and
i
say to the
rzetelne.
people,
To jest
let's
moje
try so
zadanie.
that these elections are
Ingeruję więc,
fair.
ale mówię im o
clear,
aspekcie
and just.
moralnym polityki. Również
I
w
stress
sprawach
the moral
gospodarczych
aspect of
mówimy ludziom, że
politics.
ekonomia
Also
jest
in
nie tylko
economic
gromadzeniem
matters,
pieniędzy, ale
I say
służy także
that
rozwojowi człowieka.
economics is not only
Jeśli
about
jesteście tak
accumulating money,
pochłonięci
but the
swoimi
development of
interesami, by tylko
people.
gromadzić pieniądze,
When you are
to
so
jesteście
concentrated on accumulating money,
Jak
you
wasza
were
eminencja oceniłby rolę
wrong.
Polski jako kraju katolickiego
How could
oraz
you
wiarę
judge the role of
Polaków?
Poland and the faith of the Poles?
Polska
I think that
cierpiała
Poland
przez
has
1000 lat,
suffered for
a my ją
1,000
naśladujemy,
years, and
choć dopiero
we
zaczęliśmy cierpieć. Gdzie jest
go
cierpienie,
after
tam też
her.
jest chwała.
Wherever
Jak możemy
is
cieszyć się
suffering, there is
chwałą
also glory.
wielkanocnej
How can
niedzieli,
you
jeśli nie
enjoy
przeżyliśmy
the
smutku
glory
Wielkiego Piątku?
of Easter unless
Polska
we
jest wielkim krajem i uważam ją za
experienced
wzór
the
dla całego
sorrow
świata.
of the Good
Z
Friday?
uwagi na jej cierpienie, z uwagi na jej
I
wielkość,
think that
z
Poland,
uwagi na jej
because of
przywiązanie do
its
wiary, odziedziczonej
attachment
po
to the
przodkach.
faith and to its glory, to the suffering, is very important to the world. The Miracle on the Vistula. In 1977,
w 25-lecie parafii
when we were celebrating the 25th anniversary of our parish of St. Andrew Bobola,
Stefan Wyszyński,
the primate of Poland, was visiting our parish. And during supper, after the evening mass, he addressed the people sitting at the table in the following way. You know well the Mount of St. Anthony, which is not far north from Struga, about 300 meters from here. Now there is the figure of St. Anthony. A bigger figure used to be placed there. It was the high water mark of the Bolshevik advance, and from this place they retreated. It was Holy Mother which performed this act. It was she who prayed for the Polish nation and contributed to that unusual miracle. Michael Tuchaczewski, 2nd of July 1920, in an order issued to his armies. The armies of the Red Army are ready to find to their death with the armies of the White Eagle. We have to put down the criminal government of Joseph Pilsudski. The lot of the world revolution is determined on the fields of Poland. Forward, comrades, to Wilno, Minsk and Warsaw. Forward march.
15 sierpnia minęła kolejna rocznica zwycięstwa wojsk polskich nad Armią Czerwoną w wielkiej bitwie
The
pod
next
Warszawą
anniversary of the Polish
1920
victory over Bolshevik armies
Ofensywa
was
rozpoczęta
celebrated.
4
The offensive
lipca
started on the 4th of July
nad
1920
Berezyną przez wojska
at
radzieckie frontu
Berzyna of
północno-zachodniego
the Northeastern Front led by Tuchachevsky. After 5 weeks
na przedpola
of
stolicy Polski.
struggle,
Biskupi polscy
led
apelowali
the
do
armies
społeczeństwa
to
o
the
wytężenie
suburbs of
wszystkich
Warsaw.
sił dla ocalenia ojczyzny.
Polish bishops asked the whole population to strain the forces of the nation to the utmost to defend the country.
Sztabu polskiego generałem Rozwadowskim,
After discussion with the chief of staff of Polish army, General Rozwadowski, the leader Piłsudski took the decision to attack the Soviet armies from the left flank, and on the 13th
rozgorzały krwawe walki o Osów.
August, Radzymin was captured by the Bolsheviks. Chaplain Reverend Skorupka was killed,
14 sierpnia z rejonu Modlina
leading
uderzyła na prawe
his
skrzydło
boys
wojsk
with a cross in
Tuchachevskiego
his hand.
5. Armia
On
generała
the
Władysława
14th
Sikorskiego.
August, the 5th Army of General Sikorski attacked the right flank of the Bolshevik
15
armies.
sierpnia, w dzień
On the
niebowzięcia
15th
Najświętszej Marii Panny,
of
silny
August,
atak odwodów
on the
polskich
day of Queen Mary
odrzucił Rosjan od przedmieści Warszawy. Odbito
of
Osów
Holy
i
Mother,
Radzymin. 16 sierpnia
Radzymin and Osów were
Piłsudski
recaptured.
osobiście poprowadził
On the
znak wieprza
16th
uderzenie
of August,
czwartej armii
Piłsudski
w bok,
led the
zatrzymanej
attack
pod
of his
stolicą
armies
sił
personally
Już
on the left
19
flank.
sierpnia
On the
wojska
19th
zdobyły
August,
Brześć,
the
a
Polish
22
armies recaptured
sierpnia Białystok,
Brześć, and
wychodząc
on
na
the
głębokie tyły
20th
nieprzyjaciela.
August,
Bitwa
Białystok,
warszawska była punktem
encircling
zwrotnym
the
w wojnie
Soviet armies. It was a
1920
turning point
Z
of
uwagi
the
na
War of
dalekosiężne skutki
1920
polityczne i
because of
wojskowe,
far-reaching political
została nazwana
and
przez szefa misji
strategic
brytyjskiej Lorda Dalbernona
results.
18. decydującą
Lord Darbanon, the
bitwą w
chief of
dziejach
the
świata.
British mission, called that battle
Określenie
the
to przyjęło wielu
18th
historyków i
decisive
polityków.
battle of
W Polsce
the history of
zwycięstwo
mankind.
nazwano cudem
In Poland,
nad
this
Wisłą.
victory was named the miracle on the Vistula.
Czy wy, Michalici,
Do you,
zdajecie sobie
Michaelites, are
sprawę,
aware
dlaczego znaleźliście
why
się tutaj,
you were
w tym miejscu,
put
dlaczego
here in
tutaj
this
żeście się
place?
osiedlili? To sam Bóg sprawił.
it was God Himself who took
Matka
that decision?
Najświętsza była tego
The
przyczyną.
holiest mother was behind this
bowiem
decision,
Mieliście dokonać
because
pewnego dzieła.
here you were to perform a certain task. Now,
Gdy ocalał naród,
when the nation
macie
is saved,
dziękować Panu
you have
Bogu
to thank God
za ten cud.
for that miracle.
Macie oddawać cześć Najświętszej Maryi Pannie
You have
i
to
pomagać
preach the
jej
Holy
dziejowym
Mother
posłannictwie.
and help her in her
Macie szerzyć cześć
historical
świętego
mission.
Michała
You have to
Archanioła, który jest
promote
waszym patronem i jednocześnie zwycięzcą nad złem.
preaching to St. Michael, who is the victor over the evil, and you have to promote the cult of St.
Pomocnika
Andrew the
Najświętszej
Bobola,
Maryi Panny, który
the
jest patronem
assistant of
parafii i wschodnich
Mary the
rubieży
Virgin,
naszej
and
ojczyzny.
who is the patron of eastern frontiers of our motherland.
Na początku sierpnia zmarł na atak serca
At the beginning
w
of
Chicago
August,
w wieku 72 lat Alojzy Mazewski.
Aloysy Mazowski died of heart
Kongresu
attack, the
Polonii
president
Amerykańskiej.
of Polish-American
Z
Congress.
wykształcenia prawnik, sprawował swoją
A
funkcję
lawyer,
20
he
lat.
performed his
Będąc
function for
jednocześnie
20
prezesem
years,
Związku Narodowego Polski,
being also the president
największej
of
organizacji
Polish-American
polsko-amerykańskiej,
Union, the greatest
skupiającej ponad 300
Polish-American
000
organization of
Tego roku udało nam się
300,000
przeprowadzić w
participants.
Chicago
In
wywiad z
April,
Alojzym Mazewskim.
we
Nie
were
wiedział,
able
że
to
będzie to jedna z
make
jego ostatnich
the
publicznych wypowiedzi.
interview, not being aware that it was going
Jestem
to
wybierany
one of the last
prezesem
public
za 2
interviews
lata.
he gave.
Moja odpowiedzialność jest
Every 2 years there are elections, and I was elected
tylko
2 years ago.
doradczym co do wszystkich stanowych
I am
wydziałów, które mam po całej
a
Ameryce.
consultant of all state councils all over America, and I am to fulfill the postulates which were
przeprowadzono w roku 1945
adopted in 1945
różnymi zmianami. A to jest,
with several changes
nasze
to
kolonie
keep our
zjednoczone.
Polish Americans united so that we can cooperate together,
Dla pomocy dla naszych rodaków w Polsce i zarazem
assisting our compatriots in Poland and to realize programs
i rozmowy z różnymi
and
ustawodawcami,
talks with
tak zwanych
various
senatorów,
legislators,
kongresmanów,
senators, congressmen,
żeby oni wiedzieli
so
o
that
sytuacji
they
w
knew
Polsce,
about the situation in
że
Poland.
my jako zgromadzona Polonia
As
walczymy,
assembled
Polska
Polonia,
była wolna,
we were
niepodległa i
fighting for the
suwerenna.
independence
To są najważniejsza podstawa
and
naszej
sovereign Poland.
organizacji.
Jak to wygląda, czy jak to Pańskim zdaniem powinno wyglądać?
How
Relacja między
should
polskim uchodźstwem w Ameryce
the
a
relation between
Polakami żyjącymi w
Polish in exile and the Poles in the country be
stworzyliśmy
like?
fundacje charytatywne.
We have founded a number of
milionów dolarów wartości.
caritative funds. We send $140 million worth of different equipment to the hospitals. We are paying for education of doctors here in America, for those people who come here to America to learn some techniques to help their compatriots when they come back to the country. We also realized that action Food for Poland, when there was some kind of hunger in Poland. We were realizing those actions after the war. I think our understanding is good, even if we don't talk, we understand well. Our first responsibility is political support, so that they knew that someone is speaking after them. When the martial law was introduced on the second day, I was admitted by President Reagan. We gave postulates what should be done so that the Polish nation knows that the United States stand behind them, think about them, and provide moral support for them. New immigration laws were introduced with the help of Polish-American Congress. Then the sanctions and lifting the sanctions. And then about the admittance to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, so that the Polish economic situation is improved. These are the tasks that we perform. And besides that, we promote material help. What's the influence of American Poles on the American politics? Is it a real power that has a considerable influence? I think that we have considerable influence. Several years ago, when President Carter wanted to sign credits for some amount of money, he phoned here and asked our advice. Any officer which is going to Poland, he starts to talk with us. What kind of assistance can be realized by the people who are coming here from Poland? People who have general education or medical education, they have to understand one thing, like my father and anyone else who came here, they were earning their life by themselves. Nothing was given to them on a plate. Some people think that there are some obligations. We do everything that is possible according to the situation. They are invited here to organizations, but unfortunately they have different ideas. I thank God that there are some separate people, but not the majority. America is not obliged to do anything, to give them anything. America accepted them, and in America everybody, whenever he wants, he may really earn his living well, and he may be helpful when he wants. It depends on them.
Ofertę przyjazdu do Polski. Czy wybierasz?
If you were given an offer to come to Poland, I don't have the intention, because I don't understand. I still do not understand whether my arrival to Poland could be interpreted in terms of whether it needed or favorable for the Polish nation, and also for the people living here. I'm looking and monitoring the situation. When the situation improves according to our ideas. I was in Poland, I remember, as the representative of President Reagan at the funeral of Cardinal Wyszynski. But I'm going to wait when Jaruzelski starts talking with Lech Wałęsa and starts talking with the primate, and there will be some possibilities of a better understanding and the economic situation and political agreement, so that it will bears good fruit for our compatriots. It depends on that. I don't have anything in my plans. Thank you very much. We want life without the commune and drinking. Clear conscience.
Nie napisano dotąd historii alkoholizmu w Polsce.
No history of alcoholism in Poland was written, but we can risk a statement that it is closely linked with our history in general. The greatest wave of alcoholism raises after the defeat of Polish insurrections in the 19th century. The policy of our occupants during the Second World War amounted to a doubling of the consumption of alcohol in comparison with the level reached in 1938. Only between 57 and 66 there was a stagnating consumption, 4.1 liter per head of the population. In 1981 there was an unprecedented phenomenon in the post-war history of Poland. The official statistics gave the information that there was a decline of consumption of alcohol, something like 25%. Doubtlessly, the change of climate, self-prohibition introduced by the strikers during the 2 weeks of strikes in Gdańsk had its influence. In 1984, when we started to picket the alcohol shops, the most important objective is to fight with this social vice. People were very much afraid. We wanted to break that fear. We wanted to get out into the streets and show people that we can legally fight for the rights of people, doing it officially. These were our first experiences. There were several problems. The authorities reacted in different ways. They were arresting us for several minutes. There was some provocation. There was an incident in Sopot. But in general, I think that we were more or less friendly accepted. There were flowers, there were bananas, other fruit, there were some troubles. Till now. And now? Are usually friendly moments. People are bringing flowers or offering sweets to us. We are standing in rain. And the woman came to us and gave us a bag of sweets. You poor guy standing in that rain. Sometimes there was a problem. There are people asking why in August. It is obvious. It is a commemoration of the strikes. It is clear. It is not good to drink alcohol, but I'm not a supporter of the concept of not drinking at all. Alcohol is for thinking people. It is a very useful idea to say to the people it's a propaganda, very useful. If someone wants to drink, it is just not serious. If someone wants to drink, he will drink. Whenever someone drinks or not. I think it is very good. It should be, like, of course. Not only in this place, but somewhere else. Could you stand like that? Yeah, I would. You can address yourself to, for example, Reverend Jankowski. There should be labor camps for the drunkards, so that the drunkard would be given only just for cigarettes, and the rest, should I frankly say, I drink. Why do you drink? I cannot frankly say. I have my intimate things, and you should not poke your nose into them. We want to have life without commune and without drinking. When we start reading a newspaper, usually we start with the last page. It is impossible to watch the magazine from the last page, but we want to preserve the atmosphere of the last page in a part of the magazine called Opinion. We meet ourselves at a particular moment. It is the 21st of August. There are strikes in Silesia and Szczecin. I had much fun when I listen when the TV and the press says that the strikes are illegal. But these strikes are political ones, and the politics is usually done in an illegal way. The shots from Aurora were shot in an illegal way. It is good that the working youth, is formulating political postulates. Walesa promised to take part in the action. I don't know what will get out of it. If the authorities had more oil in their heads, they could start talking with him much earlier. Now we have a draw situation. The authorities is guilty of it because sabotaging reforms, not letting foreign capital in, not providing proper supply to the market. They are kicking to their own gate and the public counts goals. I'm observing this since some time. For example, the elections to the local councils. They could be really interesting for the people if they had a political character. If we want to cross out two unknown people and elect a third unknown man, no one is interested in it. If, say, for example, one candidate represents Rakowski, the other represents Szalajda, and the third Czosek, even that would stir people. But what was really done, it was a parody. Another opportunity was lost. Then another opportunity lost was the visit of Gorbachev in Poland. When a human voice was heard from the East after so many years that starts to say that Russia is in Europe and contempts the crimes of Stalin and starts to conclude some human relations with the world, it should be arranged in a serious way, and it was kind of a parody. It was kind of a folk market in the Wawel Castle, folk dances, a funny thing, no? And Gorbachev himself seemed to be a little bit surprised. There was hope that in the royal castle some more important discussion could be started. He hoped for that. He looked for that in Poland. There were several voices which were interesting, Reverend Crumpets or Król or Sandauer, but they were very small details. The only political accent of that visit was the visit to Szczecin to make Honecker aware that these western frontiers of Poland were drawn by Russia and is going to secure them. But this was a lost opportunity, one after another. As I said, kicking goals to one's own home. And now they deserve these strikes. Those strikes are not going to have a great, profound impact on the economic situation because the government is bankrupt and cannot give anything in the economic sense. But the fact that after 40 years of monoparty totalitarian government, the information, propaganda, everything was tuned according to only one concept, that the young generation, the third generation, can shake the country and present political postulates. It's raising the spirit. I think this could be much more interesting for Gorbachev than all those folk markets, songs, Mikhail or others. But what I say, the government doesn't seem to have oil in their heads. Władysław Bieńkowski said that when one gets into the White House, one loses the contact with the society because there are other problems, the problems of personal frictions. One can see that it is still on there, and the gap between the government and the society is widening. I'm sure that there will be some time when that they go to Valença. They don't know it by themselves. They will go to Valença, and it is sure. And after, there will be interesting things happening on. Tomorrow we'll celebrate the 8th anniversary of the Gdańsk Agreement, concluding the strikes of 1980. We're going to celebrate in particular conditions. Once more, the workers of Polish factories go on strike. Once more, the Gdańsk shipyard or the Gdańsk shipyards are on strike. I am without any doubt, I don't have any doubt that it is a justified strike. It is an expression of protest against the policy when there is no place for real expression of the people. There's no possibility of expression for the workers, which are denied the right to organize themselves into their own trade unions. The strikes show that the policy of ignoring of those social aspirations to self-expression, to take responsibility for the matters of the country, of the state, of the society, that this policy is over, has used up its own possibilities. It has not met the social aspirations, and it will not impose fear anymore. So the authorities have two alternatives only: either to start a dialogue with real representatives of real social forces present on the public scene in Poland, or the return to the government of pressure, where there's police repression and imposition of force. The more intelligent representatives of the authorities are aware that the policy of repression will not solve anything, also from their point of view. So the only way is the way of dialogue, the dialogue with real representatives of public opinion. First of all, this is how Poland looks like with Lech Wałęsa and with what he represents. I think that the coming days, at most the coming weeks, will give the answer whether the people of the government are going to understand this simple truth. In August, a great number of pilgrimages start to walk to Częstochowa. Since several years, we are witnessing a great fruitful development of this pilgrimage. According to the calculation of the episcopate, 160,000 pilgrimages organized in 36 groups will come to Częstochowa. Most of them are the pilgrimages from new places. All of them are going to assemble in front of the image of Holy Mother, the Queen of Poland. Among the intention of the people, that this is a kind of escape from this difficult life. They want to breathe another life that is there during the pilgrimage. It is in their intentions, in their aspirations. We want to take advantage of pilgrimage to help the people, that this difficult everyday life is going to be there, but if they start to experience personally the contact with God, who is interested in their life, that gives life to them, it does not need to change, but it is a new life for them.
Węgrów 102 osoby, Hiszpanów
The Spaniards 54, Belgians 50, 20 people from Switzerland,
przejdzie w nocy panowanie, a jeżeli serce sercu odpowiadać zaprzestanie, nie będziemy sami, nie będziemy sami, nie będziemy samymi kamieniami.
Pozwólcie Państwo, że wśród tych interesujących treści, które zobaczyliśmy,
let me please introduce some words of your bishop.
Określić krótko obraz.
I would define it very simply. This is the image in the service of God.
Inicjatywę, która została podjęta.
I would call in this way this precious initiative that has been undertaken. I think that the image is more meaningful for the contemporary man than the word itself. The image that would induce the striving for beauty, good and truth, and also the presentation of the possibility of living in a normal family, in normally functioning society, that one can live in a law-abiding country, that the rules, the principles of ethics are immovable foundation of the life of man in society and in his professional life. One cannot see any conflict between ethics and very widely understood political practice. During the third pilgrimage to his motherland, the Holy Father prayed using the following words: let us protect us from participation in lies that destroys the world. Let us give the courage to live in truth. The contemporary Poles do need this, the courage to live in truth. At the end of the second millennium after the birth of Christ, in the era of satellite TV, when everybody, nearly everything knows about one another, when the world is so small, it cannot be governed by false. It has to be governed by truth, because the world is too small not to know the world about itself, about life, about authentic values. Falsification of life, be it social life, professional life, public life, the right of a man for full freedom, including the religious freedom in full dimensions, now in the present day is a kind of anachronism that people simply retreat from it because they know that it is not the right direction. It is not the normal climate of human life. The question is that this process could proceed faster, and that the truth could be the right climate for the man to live, because when man lives in such a climate, he may protect his own dignity. Redactor-in-Chief, Reverend Lauer. Editor, Bishop Kurian Gdańsk. Production, Video Documentation Center.